Are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises Sambrano.
And I'm Closky.
Back again. And we're the host of the Locked On Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making Locked On Rays your very first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Well, guys, the Tampa Bay Rays, we look back a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, and we may have been singing a different tune, but as we forge into the All-Star break and as the time of we're recording this, the Rays are 50-41. So they're either going to be 51-41 or 50-42. Regardless, they should still maintain that second spot in the AL East. Not too bad considering all that they've gone through these first 90-plus games or so.
Yeah.
Seems like there's a marathon happening, right, Evan? I mean, it's just like it's been a roller coaster.
I mean, if you were to present games to a baseball fan and they would not know the winner and loser and they didn't know how the standings were, and you were to say, hey, assess the Rays season, I think a lot of people would be like, oh, they must be like 5 games under.
Yeah.
It is a marathon, and I think we all forget that little heater they had at the beginning of the season, kind of end of April-ish. But they have, it's funny, coming off the Tampa Bay Lightning season, they were the Tampa Bay Findaways. I'm calling them the Tampa Bay Finda-Rays. They've had some magical moments in this first half. I mean, think about we've had 2 games where the Rays trailing with their final strike and hit a home run to walk it off. KK, of course, in that ridiculous no-hitter through 9, lose it to the Red Sox, look like you're going to lose the game, and then KK hits his first ever walk-off, and then Taylor Walls hitting off the pole. And, I mean, they've had a lot of these, like, crazy – I mean, there's the Pittsburgh Pirates win, which was a remarkable comeback as well. So, I mean, we remember that happening last year, which is why they had 100 wins, because they just, the 7th inning would hit, and all of a sudden this group would just pop on like 8 runs.
Yeah.
That, now they're kind of falling into a phase where they hit in 1 inning, and that's pretty much it. But that's at least better than what we saw for half the season where they hit in no innings. But, yeah, I think you have to be happy with where the Rays are at.
Now, where do we stand on the projections for the second half? Because we started this season, I started saying that they would win 94 or more. Kevin said 93 or less. Obviously, that he's taking the easy one because there's an easier route to do 93 or less than 94 or more. But now this team is not projecting to even maybe reach 90 wins. So are the 90 wins, an expectation for Rays fans, or should they expect 88, 89 right now?
I think 90 would probably be like the benchmark that you'd circle on your whiteboard. Like, let's get to 90. Like last year, it was like the team was very much, when they knew that 100 was in their sight, even when they won the division pretty early last year, they said right after that, like, we won the division, but our goal is 100. We see 100 wins, and we want that number. So they were able to secure that, which was a big deal. This season certainly would like to circle 90, and I think if you can win 90 games of what the hell this roster has gone through, I mean, Kevin Cash should be right back into the manager of the year conversation. I don't think he'll win it, but he's certainly in the conversation with, again, the constant juggling of bodies. The one difference, I think, from last year to this year is it is very clear that the last couple of guys in their bullpen just are not as good as they were last year. And they had, some questionable names throwing into games last year, don't get me wrong. But for some reason, they would step up. I don't know why, but it just felt like even the bottom of the bullpen had its stuff together. And in a lot of those tricky situations, even though they stunk in extra innings last year. But I think if you look at this team, that's really where I'm most concerned, besides the obvious hitting stuff and the obvious base running stuff, is that the bullpen, which is so necessary for their success, the last 2 or 3 guys that they shuffle in just haven't done it for me.
Now, don't get me wrong, but Kevin or Evan, I don't know if you guys know this. I'll have to check it out. I believe the Rays, at least in the American League, were tied for first in blown saves. So
that seems accurate. Yeah, I mean,
probably
considering
because
all the
their team is also constantly going to the bullpen so early that they're thrust into a lot more, quantity of holding onto a lead. So that statistic doesn't really surprise me. It sounds true.
Actually, yeah, I just looked it up. 21. The next team is the Braves with 18. Mm-hmm. So I was all for getting a high leverage guy you trust, you want in November. As soon as that Red Sox ALDS series was over, please give me a high leverage guy. Please give me a name. They went out and got Brooks Raley, who has done fairly well. Jason Adam has been a very nice surprise name.
Been one of the biggest surprises of the season.
But I want the other. I need one more.
Fire-Rising was it.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy didn't give up a run before he got hurt.
Yeah. Old singles, by the way. No extra base hits for JP. Yeah. So that's something I think with this trade deadline coming up. I know people want bats. I understand that. People want more offense. I understand that. But to me, I feel like just if you get that bullpen a little bit tighter, a little bit more secure, then you won't see those blown saves still happen. And also the leads. I mean, I think they're like 1 or 2 games over 500 in 1-run games. The Rays need to win the 1-run games because they're not going to shellac the opposition. So you need to win those 1-run games.
Would you rather have a high leverage bullpen arm or another starter acquired at the trade deadline? One or the other.
Like starting pitcher?
Like a Luis Castillo or a Frankie Montas versus an ace bullpen reliever who that you can throw in the 9th inning and all problems will be solved there.
I'll take the bullpen guy.
Ideally, I would say starter, but that's not how the Rays function anyway. So it just, I think the Rays would benefit greatly by having another innings eater in the way that McClanahan does. That way you're kind of utilizing now your bullpen days. You have more strength there, and then you can shuffle in the back end guys and stinker situations. The problem is the Rays they're really not put in too many stinker situations. So then they have to throw their back end guys into big spots. I mean, that's why you're in the 11th inning, or you're in the 11th inning. You got Luke Bard in there, who with 1 out and nobody on base still can't hold on to the lead, which is atrocious on all levels.
And another name, Calvin Fauché, who was put into. I think Kevin said this like a week ago before he was sent down. Like, have we actually seen Calvin Fauché in a non-high leverage situation? And I think the answer is no, we didn't. And and that's not the Rays way is putting guys that have certain traits, certain skills that they can do very well, and you put them in situations where they can succeed. They did not do that with Calvin Fauché. I don't think they're doing that with Luke Bard either. But they're not doing that because it's kind of thinning out. The bullpen is a little bit thin right now.
They don't have low leverage spots for them. The team is always involved in close games. So I mean, it's great when first off the Rays almost never blow anybody out. So it has to be the reverse, that they get truck sticked. And then it's great that you can throw in Ralph Garza Jr. for 3 or 4 innings in a crap game. But when they get on a run where they have 7 straight games where they're in it, there's no way to avoid the fact that you need to throw in Garza or Fauché or all these guys that should not be in those spots. But that, Sean Armstrong, who honestly has been getting better as the season's progressed.
Look, I mean, when you have 30 injured list assignments through basically the first half of the season, there's not a lot of other options when guys just keep going down like crazy. Like at some point,
there's not a lot of options in your depth, but you can still make trades. You can still make something happen. And that's, I think, from my point of view, that's where they should target. It's the bullpen. Try to get that bullpen a little bit of help, somebody that you can just give the ball to and you feel very confident 9 out of 10 times.
I want to continue on the overview of the first half of the season or going into the All-Star break. But first, you have to make your moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And going on now is the Blue Nile anniversary sale, where you can save up to 40% on classic fine jewelry pieces and 25% on engagement ring settings. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what is inside. So shop stress-free and find your forever piece. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, little overview or recap of the first half of the season. This is pretty easy. Team MVP. Who do you all have for the team MVP?
Shaner.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy choice.
Yeah.
It's got to be. I broke it up into like a pitching category and a hitting category.
Okay.
So Shane McClanahan, obviously pitching. And my most valuable Ray on the offensive side of things is Yandy Diaz.
Very nice.
That's who you have as well, Ulises?
Yeah. The MVP on the hitting side would be Yandy. I think his last time I checked, which was like 2 days ago, I think he was 4th in the league and with on base percentage. Maybe he has even squeaked by number 3, 417 on base.
Yes.
I mean, it's borderline stupid what he's doing at the dish. He's 298 hitting right now. I mean, the guy has always been, I think, undervalued.
Yes.
I think he's also been underloved by the fandom. And I think this year, because of so many bigger names in the fandom dropping off because of injury or trades, Meadows, Wendell, Margot, Franco, Kiermaier. I think now the spotlight on like who can I root for as a fandom, I think Yandy Diaz has finally grabbed that spotlight, very deservedly so. Yeah. And yeah, I think he definitely should be the MVP on the hitting side.
I agree. And he has more walks than strikeouts, which is amazing in this day and age. And I get probably part of the reason why fans maybe, Yandy Diaz doesn't get the love that he maybe deserves is, hey, you look at this muscled up dude, he should have 20 home runs at the All-Star break. But that's just not his game. That's not his modus operandi. I will tell you that Cleveland Guardians fans, talking to fellow Locked On hosts, are very, very upset that Yandy Diaz is no longer on their team. So
I
just use that for
not everybody has to hit home runs too. Like, what's this fetishism with the long ball? Like 1 through 9, everybody has to have 20 home runs or more. And if that doesn't happen, then they're not valuable. People can do different things. They can have different skills and be very valuable. So all the haters because of
Ramirez, right?
If we were to give a best surprising or most,
that's where I'm going to. Hey, I've got a whole list here. Let's, I'm somewhat prepared.
Okay.
All right, team MVP. We got that situated. Biggest surprise of the first half.
For Harold Ramirez.
Harold Ramirez.
Ooh,
okay.
I like that. And I know why you're saying that because he has been so fun to watch, man. I mean, look, his numbers, 329, a 376 on base, 446 slugging, 822 OPS. I mean, the guy is doing it from the left side against lefties, 903. Against righties, 792. You do not take Harold Ramirez off the lineup. I don't want to see it. I don't want to hear it. Unless he's got like stomach problems. Unless he's like, dude, I don't know why, but I don't have a hand today. My hand is gone. I had an accident.
We got hit in the thumb there in the first inning of that Sunday matchup against the Orioles. So
he did. Yeah. So against unless it's injury, I mean, I get resting guys, but this offense does not have that many pieces to just go like, oh, okay, we can take off the guy with an 820 OPS and for like 3 days off. Like, no,
that's why we need more Jonathan Aranda.
Yeah,
okay.
Jonathan Aranda is my future Harold Ramirez.
He may be trade bait for the Rays if they're trying to add somebody. I'm just saying.
Let's not have another Cronenworth situation though. Aranda needs to play. Also, guys, did you see that?
He just hits. The guy just hits.
They kept Rayleigh because of the outfield positioning, Brandon Lau coming in and all that. But isn't it true that in the Mexican League, like a couple years ago, a Locked On Rays listener fan reached out to me and said, Aranda has been playing left field in the Mexican League in the last 3 years.
He's now in Durham going to be working more outfield. They're going to be getting him more reps.
Yeah. Which, again, the Rays are like, hey, we're trying to do our best not to keep Luke Raley on the roster. We need to find a way to get some opportunities for Aranda. So that's totally understandable there.
Yeah.
Okay, so we agree on the biggest surprise, biggest disappointment.
Yes. And by the way, a consolation prize to Isaac Paredes. So
yes, I agree.
Okay, good.
Maybe even Jeffrey Springs, honestly.
Yeah, him too. I think that's a really good point. And Jason Adam is up there as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of surprises.
That's a podium right there. That's a good podium.
Biggest disappointment is it's really hard to answer this question. And I think the best way to answer it is body parts. And like failure of body parts is the biggest disappointment. Because how am I supposed to explain Wander Franco, Brandon Lau, Mike Zunino? How am I supposed to explain these guys without saying, well, they're hurt? Well, they got hurt. I mean, I will say this, that, Wander's issues, I think his disappointment in general spawned from his soft tissue injury, his hamstring, which is, I think, all of a sudden why he went from a 350 hitter and cratered, because I think he was dealing with something he wasn't comfortable with, and he pushed forward as long as he could. Zunino has been injured since the start of the season, tried to push through it. Oh, another tremendous moment was Zanino's home run in Oakland, by the way. Forgot about that one. Forgot the first half of those crazy wins. And Lau, up until May 15th, he stunk. I mean, we had about like a month and a half of him, and it was terrible. Now he's coming back and at least look solid. But, so those have to be the three biggest disappointments, but they've been out for half of the year. So it's just all the injuries are the biggest disappointment, because at peak, they got Patino, Lau, and Fairbanks back. But, earlier in last week, you were, I think I did it. You were one pitcher, a couple of infielders and an outfielder away from fielding an entire roster, an entire team that you can throw out there and on the injury list. It would have been a playoff caliber team.
So your biggest disappointment is just the wrath of injuries.
Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it, because I
guess it's 17? 17 on the IL right now this year?
Yeah, it's something like that.
Is it now 18 with Beeks? I mean, we're just it's every day. It's
18.
Put on Boz. We can say Boz is probably not going to pitch the rest of the year. Who knows what's going on with that elbow? That's a really big concern for down the road. So, you already have Kittredge, who's probably not going to pitch next year. So, all of that is just so disheartening. And if I had to pick one player who is the biggest disappointment, who has played the entirety of the season, it would be probably Taylor Walls. But that's not fair to him, as somebody who I know came in hot out of the gates. He's been a lot better recently. His fielding has whipped right
stabilized
back after an awful April in the field. He has been really steady there, which is what I want. Now, I don't expect him to hit, but
I've always had that.
Him and Brett combined don't even put together a batting average of what Harold and Yandy do. So you takes two guys to get one of them.
I've always had tremendous fielders. That question of, is if a prospect is hampered by injuries. Let's take Brent Honeywell, for example. Just so because Rays fans know what happened to Brent year after year after year. If a prospect, a highly touted prospect, gets just marred by injuries and never really lives up to their success of what you wanted them to be or what you thought that they could reach, are they a bust? Or are you only a bust because of production on the field? I think on the first one, it's unfortunate if you get injured and all that, but I think you also need to be labeled as a bust if the injuries persist, because that's just it's a black and white line. You did not live up to expectations. Now, if I'm using that frame of mind to the biggest disappointment of this season, I have to include injuries. So I think Wander Franco had the biggest expectations for every Rays fan. And so I think he would take the cake of biggest disappointment. But if we take that out, I think it has to be hands down Taylor Walls. We did not think Taylor Walls would be as shaky as he was defensively in the beginning. I know he's a rookie, people. I know he's a rookie. But you still saw really good glove work from him in 2021. So much so that in the innings that he played, he was already leading the league in DRS, in defensive run saves. So you did not expect a drop off from his defensive work. And then the bat is just like, he has 2 games and we're like, oh, he's heating up. But like, I mean, it's just not starting. That engine is not starting. And so I think he has to take the label of biggest disappointment after 91 games.
Question. I give it to, based on $182 million man and the expectations coming into the year, and just hasn't been there or been available. And when he has been available, hasn't been as good as we thought he would be, Wander Franco. You think that Taylor Walls is a bigger disappointment this year than Josh Lowe? I
was going to say Josh Lowe is also worthy of being in the discussion. Right now, though, Josh Lowe entering the All-Star break looks like the guy that they thought he was going to be. I mean, the contact, everything is up. Once you learned that pitchers were throwing him that high fastball and he wasn't going to get up to it, and he made an adjustment. Josh Lowe unequivocally is a different person returning from Durham to what he was. But I do think I'm not going to argue with anybody that says Josh Lowe, because you got to remember, even though Austin Meadows has been a complete bust, using Ulises' definition for Detroit, no home runs. He's been on the IL for more than half of the season. So the trade definitely worked out in the Rays' favor. Shocker, haven't said that before. But the fact is, when you talk about expectations, which is why I think disappointment is still a strong word for Taylor Walls, because it's not like I ever entered the season expecting him to be an engine for this team. I just want him to play good defense and hit 220s. That's so hard to do. But for Josh Lowe, they made that trade because they thought he was going to be an everyday outfielder for them. And it was evident that he was not ready out of the gates, and they moved too fast on him. And even so, he, despite that tremendous grab he made in Chicago earlier in the season to save a home run, the defense hasn't been as sexy as I would have liked it to be either, because he's highly touted as a tremendous outfielder as well. And I've seen him just like balls going off gloves that I think he should be making, that would be great plays, but he hasn't made those great plays. And that's what defines a great outfielder is the difference between getting to a spot and being able to corral a ball that is hard to get to versus having it tip off your glove and being like, okay, well that would have been a great grab.
Couple things. Taylor Walls actually leads the Rays in defensive runs saved as of right now. And I think just playing more short is just going to help his case. He also, believe it or not, and we mentioned this at the beginning of the show, home runs, let's not get obsessed with them, but he actually does have more home runs than Yandy Diaz, believe it or not, with 4.
What is Brett Phillips's defensive run saved?
Not enough to surpass the offensive ineptitude. That's my answer.
Well, maybe you can look it up while we talk about Built Bar. Why not talk about Built Bar? They have tremendous, delicious flavors, but they have outdone themselves today. Now, coconut brownie chunk Built Bar flavor that you love, it's now in a deliciously chewy marshmallow covered in 100% real chocolate. It's like a fluffy cloud of coconut brownie goodness. It's got the puffs treatment. Now remember, all Built Bars are made with collagen protein, which your body absorbs more efficiently and provides tons of health benefits. Eat something that tastes good and is good for you. Again, they're low calorie, low sugar, high protein, and they're all delicious. So today, go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you're going to get 15% off your order. So again, go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15. You're going to get 15% off your order at built.com.
Very briefly, how would you grade the offense to the All-Star break? A, B, C, D, F.
C minus.
Ulises?
C minus. C minus.
I agree. Given the big C. Defense.
C minus as well.
C.
Okay.
I mean, the errors which have been the leaky faucet has been fixed a little bit here recently, but
Yeah.
they still lead. They're very. I don't know if they lead the league anymore, but they're close to the top on teams
Unearned runs.
scoring unearned runs against
Yeah.
them. Which you can listen to one of my rants in a previous episode from a month ago about how the Rays had an unbelievable ability to make an error, but have no way to stop that runner from killing them later in the inning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pitching staff, A, B, C, D, F.
Only reason why
A+.
they're where they A+, yeah. The
Okay,
only
yeah.
reason they are in the position they are in right now is because of the starting pitching, the strength of the back end of the bullpen, just a Herculean job. Tip of the cap to guys like Jeffrey Springs, Corey Kluber. Outside of a couple of stinkers from Kluber, what an addition he's been, as long as he stays healthy. Shane O'Mac, phenomenal. So they're making it. They're making it all happen.
Yeah.
And imagine if you just their pitching is their best category. Imagine if you just like influx a guy that you like a Jorge Lopez from the Orioles, for example. If you want to dream big and get all crazy, you can think Josh Hader, but like just a guy that just would cement the back end of the bullpen 7th, 8th, or 9th inning, so that you don't have to look at your bench and be like, okay, Luke Bard, it's 5-4 against the Red Sox in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
You go get him.
Although I think we'll have to look elsewhere besides Jorge Lopez. Something tells me the Orioles aren't trading him to the Rays.
No, and just remember that when it comes to this team, we talked about the hitting and the pitching. I believe the team is 31-6 when they score 5 or more runs. I believe they only have 11 losses when they have given up 4 or more runs, and some of those losses, by the way, in there are because of extra innings, not really what's happened through 9. So it really kind of is trickled into the other stats. When they score 3 or less, their record is just, if you're looking for a tipping point entering the second half, it is the difference between scoring 3 or less and then 4 or more. 4 is the number. If they can score 4 or more in a game, they will go on an absolute tear in the second half. But it's when they go sub that number, you can only do so much.
All right. Yeah. I agree. Obviously, 4th in team ERA across baseball speaks for itself. Manager/coaching staff grade.
B+.
I go B-.
Is that more on the coaching staff getting ding compared to Kevin Cash, or a combination of all?
Kevin Cash is a chef that has 4 ingredients in the pantry right now. He has olive oil, pepper, and pasta. He's like, this is what we're gonna have. All right, we don't even have cheese on this. Okay,
it's like
there's
a
no
bad
Parmesan.
Netflix cooking show.
Look, and we can all point to moves that have been very questionable, but then he does a move like the other night where he put pinched hit Christian Bethancourt, and he hit the game-winning home run essentially. So, regardless of the Kevin Crash moments that I've heard Ulises say once or twice before, in the end, as you mentioned, he's got to do more with less. And I think when you look at where this Rays team is, how can you not be proud of what the staff has done?
I do want to say something about the coaching, though. The aggressive base running, I think it's coming from the front office. And if it's not coming from the front office, then how come the coaches haven't put a stop to it?
And again, in base running, F, by the way, if we want to transition into that, base running an F. More so, I understand we love Randy's aggressiveness, but we got to find a little delicate balance of where he's got to, I don't want to pull on his aggressiveness, but he's also, he's making too many outs on the base paths.
Look, I think there's something in his contract that states that he's got to have 50 stolen base attempts, whether he's successful or unsuccessful, to get some sort of increment.
But in the end, I'm okay. It's an F, the base running, and I don't really get. And again, when you talk about outs on the base paths, that doesn't even count for caught stealing.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, you're talking 60 plus outs when you add that in. But I rather them be aggressive because once again, they're not a great hitting team, so they have to generate runners in scoring position, and they have to try to do things to push the offense forward and the scratch and claw to get a run across. There just probably needs to be a little bit better of a balance here, and you have to just eliminate the really big knucklehead plays.
Yeah.
Which, I don't care about the caught stealings as much as I care about Yanni Diaz just taking a wide turn at first base for no reason to get plucked off from the outfield. Like those are just ridiculously dumb. But being too aggressive and getting caught in it, then whatever. I'd rather you do that than the opposite.
Yeah. Ulises, this is something we'll get to on our mailbag episode this week, but figured I'd go ahead and ask Evan, what day will Juan Soto be in a Rays uniform?
Let me just say this, because I see people, every fan base is going to try to concoct a deal to get Juan Soto. Never going to happen for the Rays unless they trade Wander Franco in the package, because they're never going to commit money long term. The only way that this would happen is that if they can deal like Randy, Taj Bradley, and Shane Baz, assuming that he's not going to get Tommy John surgery and that he's still a legitimate arm and his medical's all checked out, that the Nationals would be intrigued by those three, which according to the trade simulator, which I don't trust, but I'm just using the trade simulator.
Yeah.
So I think that personally in real life, they want more. But using a trade simulator, that is a deal that pretty much puts the value of Soto and what they're getting back in return. So you bring in Soto for a year and a year plus the rest of the season. Then on the final year of his contract, you trade him to extract prospects or something back. So in the end, you're flopping Randy for Soto. You're trading Taj Bradley and Shane Baz away. And then down the road, you'd hope to get a Taj Bradley or Shane Baz type prospect back, to the point where you're only really selling one prospect, to the point where you're also giving away Randy. But I would imagine in a type of deal, you'd be able to bring back an MLB ready outfielder as well. And we know by a couple of years, Randy might be dealt anyway. So,
yeah, and you might as well. You probably need to add like a Curtis Mead to the deal too. Like you look at the trade simulator thing, and it is whatever.
You can get lost in a very long, big, dark abyss of a
you
hole.
Can't make it like, the Rays have 181 points in this deal. The Nationals have 181 points. All right, we have a deal, right? That works. No, it's got to be like the Nationals are getting back like 300 points, and the Rays are giving up or getting back 200 points, because the Nationals want to go. They want to get everything.
If you're on par, that means they don't hang up on you. That's what that means.
It's a foundational piece. But as I said, the simulator only kind of gets you to understand where. Where
although it is the Nationals, so maybe they do use the simulator and just follow that. Maybe I don't even know.
If I'm the Nationals, I would want to throw Corbin or Strasburg into a deal as well to offload that money. So I think a portion of it. So just whatever. Soto's not coming to the Rays, thinking they would do it. Obviously they're not going to. It would be an exorbitant amount of prospects for a low budget team to give away for a guy that they can only keep for maximum 2.25 years. And again, the only reason you would trade for Soto is because this front office believes they can flip him in a year plus for more prospects, to where you can kind of negate the first deal a little bit and gain, try to make a push for it now, essentially, which again, I don't.
And what you did just now is
a whole episode to discuss.
You gave Eric Neander and Peter Bendix Ajita having to think about that situation of dealing for Juan Soto and then having to flip him a year later. Like I don't think they want any part of that, quite frankly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your very first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB Prospects podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay safe, and we will talk to you on Wednesday.